Okay, welcome. Hey, this is Mark coming to you from Baker's Green Acres, and welcome to the Anyone Can Farm live chat, the Tuesday night edition. Today is, I don't know if you guys have this problem, but today's the 9th of August, 2022. If I don't do anything where I have to write a check or something like that, then sometimes I don't know what date it is, but it's the 9th, and appreciate everybody stopping by tonight. Um, as you may have noticed, we have changed our schedule, and I'm really liking it. I am really liking it. So I'm going live Tuesday and Thursday, and then Wednesday night is the Q&A, and that's done for the Tribe Plus people. So if you want to come on the Tribe Plus and join us Wednesday night, then we'd love to have you. And that's a different format. That's not this one. It's done with with Google. I mean Zoom. It's done with Zoom, and so we can all have our little faces up there, and it's a lot funner actually because you can see people as you're talking to them. And last week it was great. It worked really good. Everything was kind of real time. The first week that we did it didn't pan out so good. My connection was not good, and and when that happens, hey, we just got to bag it. But I do tell people, if you're Plus members and you need to contact me, we can do that. Because basically, what it comes down to is if you want consulting on your property, on what you're doing or what you want to do. I do consulting, right? But I don't have time to just pick up the phone and yak with people all the time. We have to make an appointment, and then it's paid and all that has to be paid for and all that stuff. Because we're always looking at uh, what we're doing as not just a hobby. Homesteading is not a hobby. It is actually quite high dollar. And if you are a skilled homesteader, then you really make some serious gains. You really make some serious gains. So it makes a lot of sense to get yourself educated as quickly as you can, and then enjoy the profits that you'll be making as a homesteader. And I know some people think, well, it's just kind of a hobby type thing. Well, we would, if you want to treat it that way, you can and just cruise along. But if you want to step up to a profitable level, I recommend that you do that. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that you're selling at farmers markets or to retail stores or anything like that. If you did a calculation of what your monthly food bill was and then made it disappear, that's profit right there, right? So you become your own best customer. And so there's a lot of facets to that. I mean, you can be growing a lot of produce for your animals. And then when you decide to branch out, you can be, selling to your neighbors and friends and family, and it gets good. It gets good after a while because you can produce stuff when you're good at it, relatively easy, but you have to be good at it. It's like golf. At first, it's like, which club do I even use? But once you get good at it, you're going to have a level of success, and people pay good money for good food, and why shouldn't they? It's just because this this weirdness is going on in stores where you are buying food very cheap, but it is very cheap. It is very cheap food. It's not very nutrient dense, and a lot of people find that they have digestive issues because of it. And if you have good food, a lot of people don't have digestive issues. Actually, good food can turn you into a superman, right? I feel really good I'm 62. I don't feel 62. I feel really good, really good. I'm motivated and having a good time at what I'm doing. I don't think I'd want to do anything else at this point. I don't know. I really don't. I really enjoy what I do. And I seem to have plenty of energy. I can go long days and hey, it's my health is really good. I'm swimming in the morning and getting full days in. I'm putting in 10s or 12s most days and enjoying it very much actually. Today, this is why I tell you about what my day was because one of the principles that we've lived by is a saying that was put out there by Ralph Waldo Emerson. And if you've never heard of him, maybe that's probably natural, but I'm from the neck of the woods that he was from. And so when I was coming up through school, I heard a lot about old Ralph Waldo Emerson. And he said, if you do the thing, you will have the power. If you do not do the thing, you will not have the power. So if I was to sit down here a couple nights a week and talk about farming and how to do it, but I didn't actually do it, why would you listen to somebody who doesn't actually do it? You know, why would you do that? It's not a good thing to do. You want to listen to somebody that's actually walking that walk, and that way they can talk to you, you know, about how it works and, you know, what's good, what's bad, what worked, what didn't work, and you do have power. And I think you all need to do that. I am not advocating in any way just all eyes towards me. I would really want to step up and pass this information on. So learn to do these things, take it seriously, and then pass it on to your children, pass it on to your grandchildren, pass it on to your neighbors. It's real important to do that. Okay. So, um, what I did today, had we had custom chicken processing today, and you may be saying, "I thought you did on that on Friday." We usually do, but the phone's been ringing off the hook with people that need their chickens processed, and so we had to open up another day. And this has been going on for a couple of years now, where we wind up doing it 2 days a week, and we did a pile today, a pile. So I think we were somewhere north of 200, and we had a small crew. Actually, our last guy just cleared out of here. Um, I didn't work a full day. I broke off from the butcher shop probably about 2:30, and because that's when I was done with my particular, and then I went on to two other projects that I'm working on. One of them they're both actually quite fun, but one of them is we're going to start manufacturing blocks. I guess is what you would call them, but they're going to be 3x3 and 2x2 blocks. I got this great idea from the clerics from Beth, to make these blocks and then memorialize things in those blocks that are part of the homestead. Like, so, stuff that you find. This is an old farm, the 1900s. So you find stuff. You find tools. You find gears. You find pieces of glass. You find, I don't know. Let's see. What did I find that I thought was real? I found a pump handle, actually, that I thought was kind of fun. I could put that in a block. And I'm going to push that into the concrete, and it'll become part of the landscape here. And also handprints, paw prints, footprints from kids and things like that. I think it'll just be fun. And the year that we made it, and I've got grandkids, and I've got all different size. I'm getting ready to have another one here. Could be today, could be tonight. I'm on call, because I am checked out on that process. So I got my phone right here, just in case you need me. Oh, I'm talking to. I'm glad we went 2 days a week. I think I was stepping up to 5 days, and it was what I was doing. It was what I said in my mind that I was, and I did it. But I'm a lot rested and more well-rounded now. Actually, look forward to the show on Tuesday nights. Really looked forward to it today. Okay, so other thing that I was working on was my Generation 6 chicken tractors. So there's a little bit of confusion there, the Generation 5, Generation 6, but Generation 6 is the one that I am building now. And I am really loving the Generation 6 chicken tractor. We are going to make a lot of money. It's an 80 bird tractor, and we're going to start loading them 3 or 4 times. Depends on um, operations, what they come back with. If they want to go with 4 times, I'm okay with 2, but they're a whole lot easier to use, a lot slicker. They look good. Yeah, 80 bird chicken tractors. So I'm working on my third one. And then I have 2 Gen 4s out there in the field that need to come in and be rebuilt. So we have to take apart. The foundation was good, and then, well, that was about it. So we're going to rebuild them. And then I will be looking at 5 Generation 6s that are out there. Actually, there's going to be 2 Gen 5s out there, and then the rest will be Gen 6. So maybe I'll do the upgrade and change it to Gen 6, or we'll just leave them that way, and that way that we know that there's a change that's been made. All right, just what I did, and then I helped. Here I am. I got myself a cup of coffee. I haven't had dinner yet. Jill's going to make me something when I am done, and thank God for Jill. I mean, she's just a working son of a gun, and the whole crew put in a 12 today, and no one complained a bit. No, not a bit. All right, this last week, Saturday, we had a canning class that was offered here. Rachel Jameson was the instructor. There was a little bit of instruction from Jill as well, and we did a walk around with me, and it was just a wonderful day. I mean, a wonderful day. We are getting the coolest people coming to these Anyone Can Farm events. And as we do this, all of a sudden, it's sort of like, in my mind, I have this picture of canning, and I just like, okay, not that interested in it. It's sort of, you know, what happens, and I'm kind of interested when my plate comes to me, and all that. I sat in on this class, and I really learned quite a bit. And then we had conversation with the participants and started to see that the canning process is the culmination of many other things. Like, if you started with just a piece of lawn, and then you wind up with a mason jar that's uh, got beans in it, or chicken in it, or whatever. I mean, it's like a trophy, and you get to put it on your trophy shelf out. Uh, but very cool, because it is really neat to be able to bring stuff out of the garden, you know, cook it up, and then eat it. That's really cool. But when you preserve it for the coldest day in the wintertime, and you've got these really nice green beans that you're eating, it's just special. It's a victory. It's a real sweet victory that you have to wrap your arms around. Looking around the room at all these people that traveled great distances to hear what about canning produce and chickens and beef and chicken feet and all this stuff. I just saw people light up. And when they turned to me for a walk around, it was phenomenal. I had time of my life. And then people stayed for a while and we had campfire. Although it was really hot out. It was like 93 that day, so I don't think we lit the campfire, but we ate a little bit more and, all that stuff. All right, Wynn was there. I've not seen everything that was written here. Keith's with us. Lean with Northwoods Natural Health is with us, huh? Belva's with us. All right. Abundant Living is with us. Justin Z, Jay-Z is with us. Look at the haircut. Hey, you noticed that, huh? I turned my wife loose, and she said, "You want me to trim your beard?" I said, "Yeah, I don't care. Go ahead." She trimmed her all right, but I know what I'm in for when Jill's cutting my hair, so I'm not worried about it. All right, so it was a great class, and I am really looking forward to the next one. The next one, I'm thinking about this. This is one that you're not really going to miss. You do not want to. There's a guy that came into my life about 15 years ago, and I don't remember exactly how I met him. I don't think I remember how I met him. But I wound up at his farms several times. Professional fisherman for a while. I've never met a professional fisherman. And then he was a Finnish carpenter for about 10 years. And then he farming and really made a name for himself because he learned a lot. He just absorbs information, and then he can boil it down and he can spit it back out so that folks can really understand what he's talking about. It's very complex issues and boils it down. And his specialty is soils. I would say that's his specialty. He's about seed saving and tanning hides and many other things. He is the original homesteader. And anyway, he's going to be here, not this coming weekend, but the weekend after it. So it's going to be August 20th. And it's soil, natural green fertilizer, and season extension. And you really don't want to miss that. I mean, you would get a serious boost to your repertoire. The guy's name is Craig Schaff. And I don't know if he's got a YouTube channel or anything like that. I'd heard that, but I've never tuned into it. Connection tonight. Can anybody tell me how it's coming through? Should I continue, or are we having problems? Abundant Living. Okay. Are we okay? We've got 11 people. Let me see if I get a thumbs up. Justin, can you brief me on this, whether I'm going to get a thumbs up? I can keep going. I got plenty to talk about. How are we coming through, you guys? New message. Keith S. Okay. coming through good? I'll continue. I keep getting this notification saying that our connection is not. So I'll keep going. All right, our topic for tonight is soil fertility, building fertility with animals, and I guess it's. I am okay. Good. It's 3 ways. Okay. Thumbs up. All right. Thank you. It's 3 ways that you can build soil fertility. Yeah. Well, Justin, you need to be a Tribe Plus member, and then you can get on Wednesday too. Plus, you're going to get all the cool stuff, like the class this weekend. If you're a Tribe Plus member, you will get it, right? Which I think we're kind of giving away the baby here with the bathwater, but a lot of people can't make it to these things, and a lot of people are out of state. All right. Well, I better see you there tomorrow night. Hey, while I'm thinking about it, Justin's got a bunch of small pigs, just weanlings, and he is coming up for the class. He's going to be coming up to northern Michigan here, where I am. So if anybody needs any small pigs, of course you can buy them from me, but Justin can bring them with him. He wants to sell them to me, but I have a bunch. A lot of times I don't, and I would jump on that. But let's put it out there, see if anybody needs some small pigs. Justin's down in Dundee, so okay. Use a little of our marketing prowess to help a brother out there. All right. So we want to talk about fertility, and I can talk about this and have a smile on my face. And the reason I can do that is because I started working on the fertility of this property 15 years ago. And I made a video the other day about fertility. Oh, it was a video that I made on the Mark Baker page, on the Facebook page. And I had gotten up in the morning and got myself a cup of coffee, my swimsuit on, and I come out here to the back porch. Usually drink a half a cup of coffee, see what's going on in the news, whatever, and then take a swim. And then I finish the rest of my cup of coffee, get dressed, and I am ready to hit it. I mean, I am ready. But it was pouring. And we're sitting out under here, under this porch, and it's fairly new. And the porch on the south side of the house is brand new. I just put it in last summer. I just built it last summer. It's not complete yet, but it does keep the rain off. And so you can be outside when it's pouring rain, which is a nice thing. And for a long time, you couldn't do that here. For about the first years we were here, you could not do that, right? When it rains, you got to be in the house. And it wasn't always great in the house back then. I mean, the inside of the house is a lot better now than it was when we moved here. Honestly, it was pretty bad when we moved here. All right, DeClerc's in here. Good. Let's see. DeClerc, can you see anything there? Uh-huh. Right behind the old microphone. There we go. That garlic came from the DeClerc homestead. And I bet you that was braided by Beth. I'll bet you anything. I don't think Tommy's a braider. Maybe it was Evelyn. All right. But I was sitting out there and it's raining and we were in relative comfort under the overhang. And I said to Jill and Rachel, I said, great that we can sit out here. It's cool. It's raining, but we're not getting rained on. Isn't this great? And they were like, yeah, I guess so. I said, no, think about it. A couple of years ago, we would have been sitting in the house. It's raining out, and it's pretty hot and sticky in the house. And, there could be flies flying around. So it's not great in the house during the summertime. Not when it's really haze and, the humidity's high, and that was what was going on this day. So I started looking around and thinking, wow, a lot of things have changed around here in the time that we've been here. A lot of things. And I started to replay the tape, of what it was like when we had really big rains like this. Um, and it wasn't good. I mean, it used to get really brown here, really brown. Like this would turn completely brown. And some of you have been here and you say, wow, the lawn looks pretty good. It didn't when we got here. It was really fragile. There was you couldn't walk on it in bare feet because there was kind of cactuses out there, a lot of lichen. It was not filled in. There was a lot of bare spots. It was pretty bad. And not that I felt as though that was a deal breaker when we bought the place. It just that's the way it was. And I never thought that I would ever sit and contemplate what are we going to do with this lawn. I never really did. But I started learning about fertility, and I reasoned that we want fertility everywhere. We want it on the lawns, we want it in the gardens, we want it on our fields, we want the pastures that our animals that are on, we want them to be as fertile as possible. And so I started learning about composting. I started learning about biochar. I started learning about ways to spread compost with biochar in it. I learned how to put seed in compost with biochar and spread it, and spread a lot of compost on this place, and not just on the fields and the garden. I spread it on the lawns. And what that has done is that has made it so when we have very heavy rains like we did the other day, that the lawn can take it. It's like I feel, oh, keep coming, keep it coming. That was not the case. On our front lawn, many, many times I had to go out there and I had to fill in trenches that ran down to the road off the lawn from torrential rains. If we tried to drive on the lawn out here in bad rains like that, you would sink down this deep. Once it got wet and you put a vehicle on it, you'd sink right down. You didn't even really want to walk on it when you came across the lawn. It wasn't really a lawn then, but you walked across it when it was wet, and you'd be bringing in so much dirt. Now, when it's completely wet out there and you walk across it, you're just walking on grass. So when you step into the house, it's like, well, it might be a little bit of water that you're bringing in with you, but nothing like it was before. So uh, the increase in fertility that we've seen is a really good thing. And I was able to the other morning say, very nice, very nice. But it's not like you could say in July, we got to do something about this, and you're going to see it done by August. It's really not like that. It's sort of like a healthy body, like the healthy bodies of your children. You don't all of a sudden say, "Oh, we got to do something about this," and expect to see changes in them, in a month. It is a lifelong building process that you engage in. Like you can't just eat a crummy diet uh, 11 months of the year and for 1 month go on the carnivore diet and eat a lot of salads and going to be all right. You're not. Actually, it's going to disrupt things. You have to get on a good diet and stay on that diet and pay attention to your gut health. And if you don't do that, you're going to have poor digestion. And how do you expect your body to pull the nutrients out of the food that you're eating if you have poor digestion? And you'll know if you have good digestion by looking at your manure, actually. And that's kind of gross for some people, but that's how we determine if an animal is got good digestion, is getting a proper um, food supply, is by how do their manure look. If it doesn't look good, then we need to make a change. So the fertility of this property is really good right now. And I think I showed that, but when I panned it, it's like green. Everything is filled in. If you look in our gardens right now, in the walkways, we put down straw in the walkways, and they grew so fervently. I mean, it's like a foot high, and I have no choice but to go through there with a weed whacker now and knock it down. But I'm not exactly sure that needs to be done. I think the garden can have a lot of other growth in them, and that you're still going to get. I mean, our vegetable gardens are doing so well right now. You would not believe the amount of cucumbers that we have, and squashes, and tomatoes, and man, everything's doing really good. I got really good crop of strawberries this year. Oh, we've got kohlrabi coming in. We have bok choy. You got all that stuff coming in. Everything's doing really good. And that's because of the fertility. And that does not happen without some effort on your part. And you may be thinking, well, I'll do it, but I don't really know what I should do. Okay, let's go through some of these things. All right. When you're talking fields, like, and when I talk about a field, there's a couple different kind of fields that I have here. I have grow fields, all right, and those are fields that I grow stuff on, and the stuff that I grow in those, we eat it, and then the animals eat it. So we may get out there before the animals and take what we want, and then let them have the next part of it, because uh, they'll do a good harvest, but they usually eat it on the spot, and then if they have to pee or poo, they do that on the spot too. So we like to get ours out of there first, and then let them have the rest. For instance, I have a field that I just planted less than a week ago. Today's Tuesday, so yeah, it's less than a week ago. I planted radishes, daikons, forage radishes, whatever you want to call them. But they're some of my favorites. Uh, um, I like rye too, right? People know I like rye, but I really like daikon radishes, and they were up in about 3 days, right? And they're up about this high right now. And I think they're going to do really good because they got to jump on everything else, and so I think that they're really going to pull ahead, and we'll have a nice crop. So I got to remember that I should be keeping a journal. One of these days I'm going to. It's just that it's just one more thing I need to add to my life, but it would probably simplify my life, because if I knew that, okay, you plant them in August, you'll get a nice crop around mid-September. That's a good time for putting them in cans and making kimchi and all that other stuff. It's really good. But anyway, that field is extremely fertile, and the way we did that was we planted things out there. We started out with a field that was really sandy, right? Not much would grow out there, but rye would. Rye will grow on literally on a sponge. That's why I like rye so much. And so we'd plant rye, then we turn the pigs into it. They eat it. They eat all that material. They manure it back right there. All the stubble, stalks, and all that stuff, we get to turn that back in. And so we're putting organic material into the soil. The manure from these animals is everywhere, evenly dispersed. And when they manure from the animal to the ground, we have a better chance of protecting the bacteria that's in the manure. We want to protect it. And that seems counterproductive, right? Like, oh, wouldn't it be better if we just sanitize the manure or no manure on the field? Yeah, that's I've heard that, like, they don't want wild deer in cherry orchards because, well, there could be pathogens. That they love that word. The pathogens. And so you got to put these fences around your field to keep the deer out, and birds too. You're going to want to keep them out, right? So don't worry about that. Bacteria is actually your friend when it comes to building soils. It really is your friend. And we've kind of joked around about this when we've had friends over. You know who you are, but we have like two scenarios going. We have an outhouse that I built, and we just keep a bucket in there with another bucket with sawdust in it. So when you use the outhouse, you take some sawdust and you put it on top of it. And all that does is camouflage it. So when the next person goes in there, they don't see your turd in there, which I don't know what's wrong with that. I mean, we all do it. So what's the big deal? But anyway, whenever we have people to the farm, everybody's leaving a diverse group of bacteria for me to utilize in my compost pile, right? So I mean, people are coming here and giving me one of the most personal things that they have. And it sounds a little weird, a little gross, but when you think about it, when you realize the beauty of all the little critters that are in your manure, um, they're very useful for building soils. And you might think, well, what's one turd going to do? Hey, there's a lot of bacteria in that one turd, and when I intern that into my compost pile, those little fellers increase. They increase for sure. And so, we understand very little of this, and but we do know that it's part of the process. And I think over the years we've been taught that, ooh, poop bad, pee bad, but is it? No, of course not. Of course not. It's not. It's not bad. We need that bacterial load to break down the organic material that we're putting out there in the field. So let's say my pig pastures or my pig grow fields. I don't like to call them pastures because people get the idea that you can pasture them and they will not dig. No, they'll dig. And I want them to dig. I'll give them the instruction manual on digging because they're bringing the lighter soils that are down low and they're bringing them up and putting them on top. And then the heavier soils are falling down and they're mixing it. And so they're increasing a completely different new layer of topsoil for me. They do that. I don't have to pay them to do it. They just like to do it. And what do they get out of it? Why do they dig? Because there's something down there that they want. Their little bodies are telling them, hey, there's something down here you need. Right? And the pigs go through, they eat all the roots. And I'm not talking about some of the roots. They eat all the roots. They will eat every blade of grass. They will snip that. They will turn that into very high quality pork and fat. So lean and fat, and that's really neat, considering that those plants that are out there are solar collectors. So when you eat a piece of bacon and you go bananas over it, like, this tastes good. Um, is it because you like bacon, or is it because there's stuff in that bacon that your little body needs, and so your taste receptors say yes, good, me more. You know, That's why. Um, but of course, the bacon that's produced that you get at, um, like if you go to a bed and breakfast or something like that and they have just that commercial bacon, they put stuff in it to fool your receptors. But if you have real good bacon, you get the same reaction. Your body will react to it very positively. If you have mangalitsa bacon, we're very careful. We don't serve it here because we're afraid people will never leave. They will get so wrapped around the axle when they have mangalitsa bacon. It is so good. Matter of fact, I may have to end this show a little soon tonight because now that I want some. I'll see if I can hold my own and make it on through to at least 9 o'clock. But that's what I want for dinner tonight, Joe. I want bacon. I'll see what I can do. And it's because the nutrient value in it is, you're putting it in, your receptors are saying, yes, good. And then that impulse goes to the brain and says, eat more. So you eat more. And you're giving your body what it needs. And you wonder why the next day you feel like Superman from eating bacon. If you're eating something like Cheese Whiz or Cheetos or something like that, I pick on Cheetos a lot. I never eat them, but they don't even look right to me. But they put stuff in there to fool you into thinking, oh, this is good. And sugar's a big thing. That it's sort of sugar. They'll just call it sugar, but it's got a lot of other stuff in it. What they've done with food is not good. Um, it's really funny food anyway. Fecal implants from healthy people actually heal sick people. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, okay. Sick people lost all their good gut bacteria by antibiotics, right? So new probiotics are needed to fight illness. That's very good, Inga. You've got that figured out. When you need probiotics, what do you do? Where do you get them? Oh, the same people that have sold you antibiotics will sell you probiotics. Oh, you just ate these antibiotics and now your gut bacteria is dead. And now you're sick and you've got coccidiosis. Here, you need this. And then you take that and then you're ebbing and flowing. You're going up and down and up and down. Whereas if you seriously live closer to the ground like we do, um, my body absorbs a lot of this through the bottoms of my feet and through my knees and through my hands because I'm in it all the time. But if you couldn't be in it, you should come to Baker's Green Acres and I will sell you capsulefuls of dirt and you can actually soil really, really. And I'm kidding. I wouldn't sell it to you. I'd let you have it because we have so much, but you can literally put it in capsules and just whoop. You won't even taste it. And you're like, I just took a capsule of dirt. Yeah. And when it dissolves in your stomach, that bacteria is going to do the same thing in your gut as it does in my compost pile. It's going to propagate. And so you get a little bit of soil from Baker's Green Acres, and then you get a little bit of soil from I can't think of let's Declarics. Go down to the Declaric Homestead, get a little. Go on over to the Stumpos, get a little over there. Head on down to Dundee and see Jay-Z get some of his dirt. I'm not kidding. I am not kidding. You have to build your gut bacteria. Um, a guy said something to me one time, and I've never forgot it. And I'm careful where I repeat this, but it is so true as I've learned more and more and more about fertility. And this old guy is gone now. He was an old guy, so don't feel bad about it. He had a good life, but he said cleanliness is overrated. And he wasn't a dirty guy, but and he was in the butchering business, so it was probably not a good thing for him to say because I thought about that, when that gets out, and if the person I heard it from worked for him actually in his butcher shop, and she knew what he was talking about, but that you don't want that getting out because people, Americans especially, because of organizations like the USDA and MDA and all those, they will tell you to wash down your tables with bleach water. They want to kill everything in there instead of keeping a balance of organisms in there, which you're never going to kill them all. You're just going to kill the weak ones. And then the strong ones survive and they get out of balance. And, some of them strong ones might not be good for the human body. And if they are in balance, then they stay in balance. They just stay in balance. A great example is where we do our chicken killing. Uh, Instead of putting a concrete slab down, I put down stone, right? Just broken stone. And the blood and the manure out there when we kill our chickens or the chickens that we process, it settles on the top of that. And then we wash it down and it goes down through the stones. So the stones are nice and clean on top. And then underneath, when you first finish processing, yeah, you can smell it. You can smell that heavy blood smell and the manure, and maybe the day after, it's kind of stinky. Yep, it's kind of stinky. But then within a few days, you go out there and there's actually kind of a fresh smell. It smells, and Justin, you've smelled this. It smells like ozone. It smells like that ozone smell. Actually smells pretty good. I wonder what that's from. And then it transitions into another smell, which I can only, the only place I've ever smelled that was in 5D's butcher shop. A friend of mine in Montana, when I used to go in his shop, it had that smell. He had an old butcher shop that he had for a long time. And they were just real good butchers. So they weren't slopping stuff all over the floor all the time. So they weren't doing one of these cleanups like with a power washer or anything like that. I mean, it was a good smell. It wasn't a bad smell. It was just a smell. And that's because of all the bacteria. As soon as the blood and the manure hits that, it's like that bacteria just comes unglued. They just can't wait to get going on it. So when we moved here, we did not put concrete down. We just put stone down, and it's worked out really good. Yeah, so that diversification of the different species of animals that are here makes for a really nice compost. And a compost that's not just cow manure. It's because you don't want just cow manure. You want cow manure. If you can get some sheep in there, if you can get some chicken in there, you want to mimic nature. And let's say the woods, what goes on in the woods. Then we're not going to have the concentration out there of animals that we would have on the farm, but we will know if our concentration is too high. And how will we know that? We'll know that because this will tell us. We'll smell it. If it's in balance, and it appears to me that it's pretty darn forgiving. I can have times when we have a lot of pigs on our field, and you'll pass by a certain place. Usually, if there's a mud hole that they're in and there's a lot of manure going on in there, you'll go by it and you'll be like, something smells a little bit rank there. Not bad, not really bad. I mean, we never smell it at the house, and whenever I do smell it out there, it's like, okay, it's time to move the wallow and get in there and rototill that up, maybe drop some compost on it and rototill it up, and let that bacteria just go to work and bring that area into balance. It will do that. It's designed to do that. It's not like I've a discovery. Well, it is a discovery, but I'm just mimicking nature. I let it do what it's designed to do instead of Um, like the manure pits that they have around here. They have one farm that's north of me. They have like 3,000 cows, and they're on less than 2 acres. It's pretty bad. They have people that scrape the floors, and they have to, or else they couldn't even walk in there. So they have these machines like bobcats with a tire on the back that they're always pulling manure down into a place, and then they'll pump it into a pit. And in that pit, they flood it with water. And so they have this slurry in there. And the one I'm thinking about, I think it's about 4 or 5 acres. It's a big manure pit. And so it never really balances itself because they're keeping it in the water. And it's a disposal process, is what it is. Um, and that's the way they do it. And I would not mimic that because like it's north of me miles, several miles, and when they stir the pit, they usually, I think they have an automatic stirring system, and they do it, it seems, at midnight, so people are mostly asleep because it smells for miles. If the wind's right, we have to close the windows in the house. It smells that bad. Right. So it's a balance issue. There is not a good balance between what's in the manure and carbon and things like that. It's just way out of balance. So, um, yeah, but that's what you're going to have when you have a concentrated um, situation like that. So I've explained one way. It's we have the animals doing the self harvest out there, right? We're growing vegetables for them. They're going out and they're eating it. They're manuring and urinating back right on that field. And then we move them to another field. We'll get in and till that up, let it sit for a while, let the bacterial action do its thing, let the sun do its thing, let the rain do its thing, and then we'll plant something else on that field. And so we are taking off uh, produce from that field and nutrient from that field, but we're putting on at a greater rate. So our net gain of fertility is going up. So up, up, up. And it doesn't have to be a spike. You just want it to increase a little bit, a little bit, a little bit, a little bit. And then after years, you've got some very fertile fields. What does that get you? The produce that you grow in there is gonna sprout up faster. It's gonna grow better, bigger, more nutrient value in it. The pigs are gonna get more nutrients. They're gonna manure back better manure, and it's like a cycle that's going to be a good cycle. It's going to be a cycle that creates increase, right? And why shouldn't it? Right now, we're dealing with a situation where farmers are having a tough time getting fertilizer. They're having to pay a lot of money for fertilizer. Well, I'm not, because I don't use it and I don't need to use it. This system creates fertility. At the same time, I'm taking produce off. I am taking highly productive animals off at the same time. Okay, so that's one way. Another way is like with my cows on the fields that I run them on, I have to cut hay off of that. So I'm cutting grass, I dry it, and then I round it up and I roll it up in bales and put that in the barn because I need that in the wintertime. I got to have that in the wintertime because you can't graze for the entire winter. Not here because we get snow cover. It's just for dairy cows, it's real hard on them. Beef cows, you could probably get away with it. They might have some pretty slim picking lunches on towards spring, but they would make it, and then they would make up for it for sure in the spring when that spring flush comes on. Man, they will put on a lot of weight. And that's the way that is kind of designed. Grazing animals like buffalo would migrate south. They would follow the grass south, and then they would come back north, get away from the heat. right? They'd come back north. We can't really do that, but we simulate it as best we can by feeding them hay in the wintertime. Now, one of the ways that you can increase your, let's say your hay field has been a little sparse. I've actually had this, and I wasn't quite sure what to do. But we had a grazing school here recently, and I sat in on the grazing school with a particular problem in mind, and it was one of my hay fields. It's just been really sparse, and I thought that we were feeding it very well, but evidently we were not. Um, I've I got probably 10 good harvests off of it, but then it started to wane. The year before last, I didn't cut it at all. And then last year, I got a really sparse cutting off of it. This year, I did okay, but I still didn't get the normal harvest off of it. And I've asked around, and one of my neighbors said, "Oh, you got to get some fertilizer up on there." And I said, "Well, I don't know if I want to do that because I'd like to be able to tell you all that I don't use fertilizer." And then I was advised, "Well, at least get some lime on it." Okay, I guess, but we don't really do that in the natural world, or in the natural world in nature. There's no source of lime, I don't think, not that I know of. And so I wasn't really okay with that school. I listened to what I had to say. It was Parker Holmes that was doing the grazing school. Excellent information. And I learned of a method called bale grazing, to where the hay that I am cutting, I am going to put it out on that field in the wintertime and but before I do that, I'm going to go out there and seed it, not with a drill. I'm just going to broadcast seed it and put a mix out there of various things. And right off the top of my head, I know that here orchard grass does really good. Actually does good everywhere. Rye does really good here. It really does everywhere, I think. um, Bird's foot trefoil does well here. Timothy does good here. It's a grass. And then cowpeas. I've never planted them, but I heard they do really well. But you want about 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 species of seed to go out there. And then I'm going to be putting my bales out there and limiting the cows to a section. So they're eating, and then they're keeping all their manure in that section. What are they going to be doing? They're going to be dropping manure right on that new seeding. So they're covering it up. So when spring comes, oh, those seeds are going to be like, hey, look at this. It's warm. We wake up. We got this blanket of fertility on us. Let's grow. And we will have the cows off by then, and we will get a lot of new growth, right? And you can do that year after year after year, and you're adding fertility. And I'm actually going to be feeding out on that field the hay that I cut off that field. And so the animals are going to process that. They're going to add more bacteria to it, and then they're going to cover up some seed that I want to grow in the spring. So it's a great method. My cows are still going to be getting fed. They're still going to be making the gains that I want them to gain. When you're feeding cows, I've got beef cows and I have dairy cows. I'm getting like 3 gallons of milk off of 2 of my cows right now. So what is that in pounds? It's about 3 times 6, something like that, about 18 pounds of milk. And the beef cows will gain right now on fresh grass. They're doing 2.5, between 2 and 3 pounds that they're gaining per day, right? So I am making gains, right? And those gains can be, meat in my freezer, or they can be meat in my neighbor's freezer and his dollars in my bank account, which I need meat, but I also need dollars because, they don't take meat at the gas station, and I can't pay my insurance with meat. So I have to convert some of it to dollars in order to buy diesel fuel and make the farm go. But that increases every year, because so long as our fertility increases every year, our output increases, and if we just stay with it, it gets better and better and better. And I it takes, just like a surfer. All right, a surfer knows the sweet spot to stay in that wave, to ride that puppy all the way in. He doesn't have the objective view on it that we do when we're watching them on TV. They only show us the good surfers. They don't show us the ones that, the wave goes over them or the wave goes under them, whatever. They show us the ones that really, at a gut level, know where to stay on that wave to ride it in. But it's sort of like that with your farm operation. You're around it enough where you can sense, okay, this is good. Like when that rain was coming down the other day, I could sense that this is good because the fertility is up, the rain can come down, the roots will hold together. It's actually a gain getting all that rain instead of before. Well, all that rain, it's just going to wash things out, and I'm going to have all these ugliness all over the place, and I'm going to have to go to work filling it in. But I don't have to do that anymore. I do not have even one place on my farm that I had to do that, with this last rain that we had. And this was it was moderate. We got an inch, and we got it in just a short period of time. So that can cause you some problems, but it did not. And so I felt like, okay. It's sort of like when I had a bad section of roof on the barn, which I have a bad section now, a new bad section. But every time it would rain, I'd be like, oh man, I got to get that fixed. It's the same feeling as when you have very infertile fields and you get a heavy rain and it's washing stuff out. You've got erosion going on, and it doesn't feel good. But when you've got a thick cover of grasses and forages and roots and trees and all that stuff, then rain is coming down, and your farm is just like, oh, thank you, bring it on, and it's able to utilize that product that you're not paying for. By the way, you don't pay for rain, and we hear a lot of negativeness. I heard some more today about, oh yeah, you got to pay for that. You got to make sure it gets up to the Green New Deal and all that stuff. You know what? If you operate things properly, I don't think you have to listen to any of that stuff, because it's I know there's some rotten stuff that's coming down, but I don't know is that it's going to happen. There's just so much positive things that happen every time we get a rainstorm. I get overwhelmed with positivity that I think all we have to do is look at those negative turd bags and they just wilt, right? But taking them seriously is not good. Okay, so the third way is the way that I talked about in the beginning, is collecting the manure from your livestock, piling it, composting it, adding to it, nurturing that compost, and then when you're ready to spread it, even adding seed to it, right? And then getting it out there. So I designed a compost spreader. Somebody ought to give me a steak dinner for it, I think. And, some guy made a comment when I shared it, and he said something mean, like maybe it was a woman, I don't know. Like, I can't get that time back. Like, they just wasted their time by looking at my compost spreader. But it was actually a a brilliant design that I came up with, if I do say so. So the design was, I think some of you have seen it, but I'll explain it. I took a gasoline tank, and it's a 300-gallon gasoline tank. So 300 gallons is going to be 3 yards, too. It is 3 yards. I mean, it's 1 yard. 1 yard, right? So I'm not going to go to the whiteboard. I'll just explain it to you. And I'll use this as a training aid. It's because I just don't have a pen right now. But see, a gasoline. And on the end, I made a hole right there. On this end, I made a hole. And then I put a pipe through there, a piece of 1 1/4 inch pipe, all the way through. And it made an axle. And then I built a tow bar that went on the axle that came up like this, a tow bar. So, you know what? I really need to draw this for you. I can find a pen. That's what I'm here for. Stand by. Here's a pen. What color should we use? Green, okay, for the Green New Deal. I got me a pen. All right. All right, this is good information, really. Green sand too with the seeds. Yeah. Okay. So I've got a 300-gallon barrel like this. I've just put a piece of pipe through here, and it comes out here. And then I made a tow bar like this. And this is made out of angle iron. I think it was 2-inch angle iron, and then I put a hitch right here so I can hitch it to my Jeep. So if you viewed this from the side, it would look like this. There's your axle, and this is the tow bar. Just like that. Now, to hook this up to the Jeep, we would have the tow bar in this position, and the Jeep would be here, let's say. I use the Jeep. I could be using the 2020 now. All right, can you see that? This is the Jeep, let's say. That's not a great drawing. Lone Star's not here much anymore, so I don't get a hard time from him. All right, how's that look? All right, so let's go back to this one. I made a door like this, and then made some kind of crude hinges right here. And this door opens up, and when it's open, it's the same width as the bucket on my front end loader. So when this is open, I can drop a yard of compost in this thing, and then I can close it, pin a couple of latches, and then I've got a whole yard in this. Okay, so it's pretty heavy. And then what I did is I made 2-inch holes, and I spaced them out. And I just spaced them out what I thought would be a good idea. And I had no reference point on this. I just kind of felt my way through it. And I started them out at about a 1.5-inch hole. That's where I started out at. And I then pulled it along, and I realized pretty quickly that I wasn't going through the compost quick enough. So I thought, well, I'll go to a 3-inch hole. But then I was a little concerned that if I go to a 3-inch hole, that I have gone too far and I don't know if I want to do that. And so I went to approximately a 2 inch hole, just a 2 inch hole, and maybe maybe 2 and a quarter, because I freehanded the hole with a cutting head, a cutting torch. And it took a while because that's a lot of holes to cut. But I wound up making myself a little jig that I could hold on there, and I would just trace that, and I got a pretty consistent hole. So when I tow this, it leaves a pattern of dots on the ground, and they are, the same as the spreader. They're in the same pattern as the spreader, and they're spaced out the same as that, and they're about they'd be about 3/4 of an inch high is what they would be, depending on the humidity, the wetness of the compost that I have in it, which varies. It's all over the place, and I haven't figured out a way to do this with what I have yet. But I think what I'm going to do is when I know I'm going to load this thing, I think I'm going to go out there and I'm going to spread seed on it. And then I'm going to pick it up and drop it and pick it up and drop it and mix that seed, you know. And then when I take it out and I seed my lawn, or when I take it out and I'm pulling it on the lawn, I'm dropping these dots, and these dots, oh, that's nice, are going to be very similar to, I really don't like it when people take this off. Yeah, okay. All right, well, that's why I don't like it when people take that off, because it's so difficult to get back on. But it'll be very similar to when a cow plops. So you have a similar um, scenario that those seeds can grow in. So those are the three ways right there that you can do this with animal manures, and I think it's really effective. All right, so this this is just scratching the surface on fertility. There are many, many ways to increase fertility with using animal manures and management of stuff that you grow. There's many ways to do this, and these are the things that we're going to be talking about in this workshop that's coming up. So I am going to talk about some of this stuff next week, next Tuesday, and then we'll have our workshop coming up on the 20th. And if you're going to come to it, I think there's some merit in taking notes, rewatching this episode, hear what we have to say next week, and then bring that into the workshop here on the farm. And I think you'll leave being very well equipped to build your fertility on your piece of property. Now, I've encountered people that have said to me, well, this is my first farm and I don't really know if I want to stay here. Well, if you increase the fertility of it, and then you get ready, you move up the chain, you learn a lot of skills about homesteading, and then the time is right, you've progressed, and the time is right where you want to move to a bigger piece of property, and you offer your smaller property for sale, and a prospective buyer comes and sees it, and it's like green. Everywhere is green. It's growing. That property to your new homesteader is going to look a lot more attractive than if it's brown. And if you say to them, yeah, well, I knew I wasn't going to live here, so I'm not going to do anything as far as fertility goes, and that doesn't make sense. You want to work on fertility wherever and however you can, always. And I think next week we're going to talk about carbon and carbon collecting and all that good stuff. So until then, we will see you next week. I recommend that if you would like to um, join the Anyone Can Farm Tribe Plus, that helps us continue doing this, right? That helps us do that. So please do me a favor and to the Anyone Can Farm. What do you mean you wish you could? Are you looking around for a magic lamp to rub on and give you 3 wishes? If you got 3 wishes, would one of them be to come to the class? You can. You just have to figure it out. Or join the Tribe Plus, and then you will be able to, get the class in, video form. All right. All right. Anyway, very good. I appreciate all of you coming by. Let's get together again. Oh, this Thursday, we've got a couple of interesting people lined up for the interview night, Thursday's interview night. And I'm not exactly sure who it's going to be, so you'll just have to tune in and see who it's going to be. But it's real interesting to interview other homesteaders to see where they got started and the direction that they're going. And it's interesting for me because I'm having to kind of plot a course here that's good for everyone. And so I find it really, really fun to do. Last week we interviewed the Resistance Babes, and that was fun. I think we were on like 2 hours. Yeah, that was fun. And let's see where it goes this week. There's the prospective candidates all sound like really a fun interview. So let's see where it goes. For now, I'm going to go, and my message to you is anyone can farm. So